Weekly Standard founder and Twitter enthusiast Bill Kristol has helped launch a venture you probably never heard of. It's called Hamilton 68, and it's designed, they claim, to combat Russian disinformation on Twitter. But it's having a bit of a hard time and seems to be spreading disinformation of its own. For example, Hamilton 68 was behind the claim that the Release the Memo campaign to expose FISA abuse by the FBI was just a Russian plot with no support from actual Americans. Glenn Greenwald has been covering this. He writes The Intercept. He's a critic of widespread hysteria on this question, and he joins us tonight. Glenn, this is one of those many stories that fall through the cracks in a news environment like this, and that's why I'm grateful you have been on this. What is Hamilton 68, and what has it done?
So I wrote about it when it was formed not even a year ago, last summer, because it was yet another example, probably the most vivid one yet, of this kind of union between Democrats on the one hand and neocons on the other. I guess I should say reunion, since neocons began as Democrats, migrated to Republicans, and are now back with Democrats again. And it's essentially a group that was, as you said, started by people like Bill Kristol, people who have been leading neocons from both political parties, CIA officials, the people who basically have been disseminating disinformation throughout the entire war on terror, the least reliable, most warmongering people in Washington. And they said that their purpose of their group was to combat disinformation and the attack on the American democracy by Russia and other groups. And their main kind of feature was that they would have this dashboard called Hamilton 68 that purported to track the activity of Russian influencers on Twitter by tracking 600 accounts. Nobody knows which accounts they've designated as influence of Russia. They're not necessarily Russian. They're just people who, in the eyes of Bill Kristol and his friends, are people who espouse Russia or pro-Russia themes. And they just constantly make claims about what Russia is doing on Twitter that the U.S. media, in the most shocking way, uncritically ingest and puts into their headlines as fact about what Russia is doing.
So they're basically running their own propaganda campaign purportedly designed to combat propaganda. What's the agenda behind this? I'm a little confused by it.
It's twofold. One is these are the people who have actually been obsessed with the idea that we should be at war with Russia for forever. Back in 2008, when the president of Georgia attacked two provinces that viewed themselves as more aligned with Russia, and the Russians went and confronted the Georgian government about it, people like John McCain and Marco Rubio and that whole neocon crowd, Bill Kristol, were essentially calling for NATO to go to war with Russia over Georgia. They've been obsessed with Russia forever and have wanted the reinvigoration of a new Cold War. That's part of it. And then the second part is domestic, which is that whatever views they dislike, namely on the left wing of the party that's anti-imperialism and anti-war, the left wing of the Democratic Party, or the kind of isolationist, paleo-conservative wing or libertarian wing of the Republican Party, they want to smear as being aligned with the Kremlin. So whatever views are on the right wing of the party, like Release the Memo, or on the left wing of the party, like, anything relating to Bernie Sanders, they'll just declare to be a theme of Russia and then accuse everybody who advocates it, Americans who advocated on Twitter, of being part of a Kremlin disinformation campaign.
You and I are on different sides, and we both had that happen to us, so we know firsthand. Thank you, Glenn, for that. I appreciate it.